Hello all, Rick here covering the most advanced and powerful Romulan Star Empire vessel created that we have seen on screen. In early 2379, the USS Enterprise accepted the seeming olive branch from the Romulan Star Empire to meet with the new Praetor of the Empire and encountered the prototype flagship vessel that would be the centerpiece for a new Romulan armada and a deadly weapon in its own right, the IRW Scimitar. This vessel was a warbird on a scale that functionally and physically dwarfed the Trademarks class. The original design was for Star Trek Nemesis and was to be an imposing new threat to the heroes. The brief required a new Romulan vessel, but more aggressive and unique to reflect its purpose as a planet killer. It was designed by John Eves, based on John Logan's initial direction of a vessel that at times even looked like a spider poised to strike. The fact that this vessel was going to need to unfurl or shift in some way to deploy its generator was always on the table. Initial concepts showed a wider range of designs, but ultimately the more unique ones were ousted in favour of something more identifiably Romulan. So, with the real origin covered, let's take a look at the lore origin. The Thalaron had been developing a Thalaron-based weapon to deploy against the Dominion during the war. This was banned in the Federation as biogenic effects of the radiation meant that even the tiniest amount could be lethal to an extent that dwarfed almost any other effect. Because of this, the Romulan Empire kept their Thalaron experiments a secret from their allies, but as it turned out the point was moot. The war came to a close in 2375 and put a stopper on their need for such a weapon. However, the genie was out of the bottle, and they continued to develop it in secret. By 2378, the Scimitar design had been developed around the generator, and this new Predator was planned to enter the skies. The scale of the vessel was in keeping with the Romulan philosophy of the Trademarks class, but built to be even more heavily armed, to contend with Dominion vessels. Meanwhile, the Mogai class was in production as a more reserved version of their mainstay vessel, so this was also justification for the Scimitar class's scale. It wasn't going to be every ship, just some important ones. The vessel performed well during simulations and was expected to go into production in the following year. But during Shinzon's rise to power, he came across this Thalaron base during the Dominion War and copied the information he found there. At the close of the war, however, he began his rebellion against the Romulan Empire to rally the Remans, all the while diverting captured resources to an undisclosed base of operations, where the Remans began to work on recreating the Thalaron's prototype, with all the testing and development already done. It was a relatively quick matter to create the ship, with it launching in early 2379 as planned, just now under Reman control instead. After his rise to Praetor, however, one of the first things he did was name it his flagship and destroy all other traces of the Thalaron project. He did this so no other opposition could claim an equally devastating weapon to be used against him. The next iteration of the Romulan cloaking device was also ready to be trialled once more and implemented on the Scimitar II. After all, such a powerful vessel was indeed formidable, but would draw the attention of the entire fleet if it made overt plays, as deadly as it is. So this new cloak was indeed the most advanced created, and in all the simulations it managed to completely shroud the enormous Scimitar. Past cloaks had been given away by emissions such as tachyons and even sensor ghosts, but with every iteration the Romulans improved it. These simulations were confirmed when Praetor Shinzon took the vessel to meet with the Sovereign-class Enterprise E in orbit of Romulus, and managed to observe the Starfleet ship without being discovered despite only being several kilometers away, and the renowned effectiveness of Starfleet sensor systems. The ship is a massive 890 meters long and 1,350 wide, with an unknown crew complement and deck layout. The Thalaron-laced reactor was the main focus of the development project, dating back years. Not only could the Thalaron generator produce enough particles to be a deadly weapon, but it was an incredibly powerful reactor in its own right, eclipsing the prior matter-antimatter or singularity engines. This new warp core was enough to accelerate the vessel to its highest factor of just over warp 9.7, which is not the fastest vessel in the Romulan fleet, but fast enough to contend with most other ships of the time. What is terrifying though is that the Scimitar could travel at this velocity without giving away its location, a feat considered impossible until this latest combination of Thalaron and cloaking tech. It also possessed a regenerative shield system. I mean, pretty sure all shield systems are regenerative, but I guess it means it was far more efficient at restoring its shields to full even under duress. It should also be noted that, like the warp drive, the Scimitar could maintain both shields and a cloak at the same time. Again, most of these implements were only possible due to the incredible amount of power this thing could produce, and it also maintained a backup shield generator to bolster the primary should it fail, which compounded the resilience of the main array's regeneration. It reminds me of Roman soldiers when they made a shield wall and cycled out the front infantry when their arms began to tire. There's also a highly advanced holographic projection system that allowed for communications and, like the cloak, was encrypted and near an untraceable signal. The ship was armed to the teeth, with a whopping 52 disruptor banks and 27 torpedo launchers. This made it the most heavily armed vessel that the Romulan Star Empire had ever produced, and this is not even considering the Thalaron generator. When deployed, the generator could emit an indiscriminate wave of Thalaron radiation on a planetary scale. This would destroy all organic matter, leaving structures and technology unscathed. One of the features we saw in great detail was that the main hangar contained 40 Scorpion fighters. These were small sublight ships that were made to swarm enemy vessels, diverting their attention, but likely also served to protect the mothership if it was in the middle of the lengthy process of deploying the Thalaron weapon. These small two-man ships were lightly armed and shielded, but among the most nimble vessels witnessed, thanks to their diminutive size. Despite its secretive origin, the vessel Scimitar served as a definite factor in the rise of Shinzon to power. Not only did its seizing grant him the power to leverage Romulus into supporting him, it served as proof that he could oppose the Federation. Many in the Romulan Navy who had grown tired of peace with Starfleet and wanted to resume the Romulans' plans to become the supreme power of the Quadrant saw the Scimitar's effectiveness as part of this, and therefore Shinzon as a useful asset. It's even suspected that some allies within the Romulan power structure supplied Shinzon with the resources needed to construct the Scimitar. Now, the future of the vessel is unknown, with the prototype itself being destroyed and Shinzon making a concerted effort to lay waste to the project itself. In Apocrypha, it is shown that there were later Scimitar-class warships, but these were stripped of all their Thalaron ability and had regular singularity cores installed instead. This did reduce the efficiency of things like their perfect cloak, and other things, but the sheer scale of the vessel and its other pros ensured that the Scimitar class remained a powerful addition to the fleet, now named the Tolwar class. Another tale shows that after the Remans managed to completely turn on the Romulan Empire in the wake of Shinzon, they replicated smaller versions of the Scimitar that were not as powerful, but it remained the single vessel class that they called their own, so the symbology was important. Thanks for watching this breakdown on the Scimitar class. It's certainly the most impressive ship in the Romulan Star Empire, which is funny that it was never completed by the Romulans themselves. Thanks again, and until the next one, I've been Rick, and goodbye.